Hey everyone, welcome to Ashleyland. This is another weekly reminder that all Black Lives Matter. They will matter today, they mattered yesterday, and they will matter always and forever. This video is going to be fairly short. I just wanted to give an update on some of my reflections from last week. And this video is really going to be dedicated to the class of 2020 because you guys have graduated during a pandemic, during like a reiteration of the civil rights movement. I have a few people that I know who graduated and I'm super proud of you all, and so I just wanted to give some brief reflections before I go into what this video is going to be. This week has been really hard, y'all. It's been really hard. I went to like 4 protests in 1 week, just constantly seeing Black Lives Matter all on my timeline, which is a good thing, but also it's just like, why are we still fighting this fight? It's just ridiculous. And the boy who just got lynched literally in California, the young activist in Tallahassee who just was murdered. It's a lot to deal with, and not to mention all of the Black trans people who have been murdered so senselessly and they still are not getting the justice that they deserve. And so I will say I'm so grateful for everyone who tuned into my town hall last week. It was an amazing experience, just bringing my friends together and having an open and honest dialogue about what's going on. And hopefully you all were able to get some nuggets and gems out of that inspired you to continue moving in this fight for justice. I have a bunch of other things that I really want to plan and do, and so I'm super excited about having this space on YouTube to really show the activist that I am, because this stuff really matters to me. And it just means a lot because it's really hard to be Black in America, y'all. Like, I don't think you're quite getting it, and it goes way beyond policing. Like, there is literally racial inequity in every single sector that we are living in, and Black people are being discriminated against at disproportionate rates. And I don't think people quite understand how stressful and exhausting it is to live in America as a Black person. I just don't think you're understanding, and you can never really truly understand, but I just can't continue to live in this America, because if that's the case, I'm packing my shit and leaving now. I can't continue to live in this racist ass, bullshit ass, white supremacist ass nation. Like, 2020 is the year to get it together. I'm giving it till December 31st, 2020. Why are people mad that we want to defund the police? It's because the system has benefited you. And defunding the police is not even getting rid of the police altogether, which I actually am for abolishing the police. But that's not what we're talking about right now. We literally just want to take away more than just 5% of their budget and put it into stuff that will actually help people. Like housing, like healthcare, like shit that's normal and other people like white people have and take for granted. I'm really hoping that the conversations and the dialogue and the openness of Black Lives Matter that I've been seeing on my timelines is real. It's not just performative. We have people like Starbucks who want to say one thing and then the next day want to give out Black Lives Matter shirts. Look, no baby, that's not how it works. Like, you're canceled. People are getting exposed at high rates and you are one of them and you are canceled. I do want to just shout out the class of 2020. I know this was a hard year for you all as well, and it takes me back to when I was able to be the commencement speaker at my graduation. And the reason why I'm sharing this speech that I gave is because I think it's just so relevant for the times. It's crazy because I keep telling people like 2020 literally feels like college to me, and in some ways it does, because that was really the height of Michael Brown and like Trayvon Martin. I was in college during that time. And at my commencement speech, I made sure people knew, like, I love Pomona. I went to Pomona College in Claremont, if you didn't know. But y'all were on some white supremacist racist ass bullshit. And I made sure that was known to the thousands of white parents in the audience who literally had never heard of racism until that day. Good morning, faculty and staff, family and friends, and a special hello to my fellow graduates. I can't begin to express how surreal it is for me to be up here on this stage and the significance of me taking up this space. A Black woman, a first-generation college student, a girl who grew up in an urban city. Hey, I even got a thick body. I mean, how many people up here do you see that fit that mold? But I've digressed. I guess I should formally introduce myself. My name is Ashley Land. I hail from the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. Some people know Chicago as the city of deep dish pizza. Some know it as the city of great architecture. Some know it from the news as a city with a gun problem. But I know it simply as home. It is important for me to start here as a reference point because where I am from has made me the person that I am today. One of the most important lessons I have learned here at Pomona is that a person must always remember their past if they wish to build a better future. I grew up in a working class, predominantly Black neighborhood on the south side of Chicago to a single mom who always instilled in me the importance of education. I would travel by public transportation for an hour every morning in order to get to one of the top high schools in the nation on the city's north side. My senior year of high school, I applied to this scholarship called QuestBridge, a scholarship for low-income first-generation college students that was meant to reward high schoolers that had showcased outstanding academic ability, but also the ability to overcome economic and situational hardships. You see, college to many people is just the next step in their lives after high school. It's something that has happened in their family for generations. It's something that was never kept from them legally or institutionally. It's just a simple rite of passage. On the other hand, for me, college was an opportunity to reach for something higher, an opportunity to make it out of a bittersweet city, an opportunity for me and my family to one day have a better life. Not only was QuestBridge key to me believing that I could one day become somebody monumental despite my situation, it was also my first contact with Pomona as an elite institution that I finally could believe was actually in my reach. My first couple of years at Pomona was love at first sight. I mean, what was not to like? They fed me 3 times a day. I had 2 awesome air-conditioned rooms my first and second years. I was able to go and come as I pleased without any parent supervision. I joined a multitude of different clubs and activities. I turned up for the first time in my life. I even made incredible new friends. Life was perfect. And although first year is sort of a blur now, I do remember hearing brief mentions of racism, sexism, homophobia, etc. And all I can remember is getting super agitated because I felt like everything was turned into an ism. It's all about race. It's all about class. It's all about if you're a citizen or if you're not. I was unable to recognize the systems of oppression that were beyond me and chose to be ignorantly unaware of the complexity of race relations and social problems plaguing the United States. Fortunately, during 2014, that all changed. What was that, Professor? I got a D on my psychology midterm? I feel so stupid. Oh, girl, I just don't have the money to go to the village for dinner. I have to buy my flight back home. Is media studies even a real major that I can garner success with in the future? Did my professor really just ask me to give the class the Black perspective on blank idea/theory? These are just a couple of scenarios that occurred during my time here. And although they didn't make me completely lose my love for Pomona and all it has to offer, there was also some sense of not belonging that I began to feel. I wasn't the academic scholar I thought I was. I was no longer able to hide my class background. I no longer had faith in myself or my abilities. I was no longer an individual, but instead a representative for a whole entire group. Even though I may be using my personal experiences to share these frustrations, I have a feeling that many of my classmates have experienced similar struggles and thoughts in their minds. The frustrations and disappointment continued in 2014 when I went abroad to Salamanca, Spain. I was often stared at for my Black skin. I struggled with my non-fluency in the Spanish language, which I often felt defeated for. And unfortunately, This all occurred during the time when news outlets everywhere began to highlight the police brutality and oppression occurring within Black and brown communities across the United States. Wait, let me rephrase that. News outlets across the world began to highlight a marginal amount of instances of police brutality and oppression within Black and brown communities, minus any amount of compassion, empathy, or acknowledgement of injustice surrounding these victims. These victims were not people with families that were mourning. They were transformed into animals and criminals used to be trendy and get ratings up. That's when I woke up. When I got back to campus, I heard from my fellow Black peers the reactions to their efforts in protesting and demonstrating in response to the violent anti-Black racism that permeates our society, which were inexcusably disgusting and horrendous. That's when I woke up. When administration then came together and decided that when they were being problematic, dismissive, and unresponsive to students, that they were just going to silence our demonstrations and invalidate our anger, that's when I woke up. When I was called a racist and a liar, when I was merely trying to advocate against the annihilation of my community, that's when I was officially pissed off. Pomona frequently prides itself on being one of the most diverse institutions in the country, which I agree is a very solid strength of the school, but it can also be a weakness. It seems like the institution brings all of these people together and just expects them to get along perfectly. At large, the U.S. is set on the ideologies of democracy, freedom, diversity, opportunity, and equality being what makes this nation so great. But none of these ideals can be achieved without pivotal justice. I watched multiple unjust homicides of numerous members of my community. I saw my community being annihilated one by one while I was thousands of miles away. I saw my Pomona community, the place I had called home for 3 years, begin to annihilate specific members from the inside, and this was unacceptable. That's when I recognized the importance of acknowledging privilege, community collaboration, and radical community love. Acknowledging privilege is an often difficult, disruptive, unsettling, sometimes internally violent process that I've realized can be uncomfortable for both the person acknowledging their privilege as well as the person calling said person out. No, if you sighed or rolled your eyes or sucked your teeth while I started talking about privilege, it may be time for you to check your own. But again, I digress. I too was unable to grasp the idea of privilege fully. I was unable to see how my heterosexual cisgender being or my blue passport gave me a wealth of passes and freedoms that other people did not have. I was unable to see how privilege is tied to power that we have been trained not to acknowledge so that some people can benefit more than others. I have come to terms with the fact that much of this is because when we do acknowledge our privilege, we become actively responsible for calling out those who take their privileges for granted, whether that be ourselves or others. This is where all my fellow graduates come into play, because time after time, we have heard that the one thing Pomona faculty, staff, alumni, and trustees can agree on is the fact that students truly create the campus climate. Pomona students are some of the most compassionate, mindful people that I know who are willing to take action and hold people accountable for their words and actions and how they affect others. This includes having tough conversations at 3 a.m., taking classes outside of their comfort zones, being honest and willing to share their stories, listening to someone they do not agree with, and the list goes on. I've seen students create programming in spaces that lift people's spirits, hold others accountable, that challenge notions of how much change can actually happen, and that people love themselves and their communities the way they deserve to be loved. And because of this, it is imperative that I also extend some special thank yous. Thank you to my fellow graduates who worked at and mentored for the identity-based centers on campus that support and enhance the well-being of marginalized communities on this campus. Thank you to my fellow graduates who marched, protested, and sat in endless meetings, taking up time from their academics so that this campus would be a better place for us and generations of students to come. Thank you to my fellow graduates who never looked at staff like strangers, who always acknowledged that without the labor of departments like facilities, housekeeping, catering, and grounds, that this school literally would not run. Thank you to my fellow graduates who wrote thought-provoking pieces for the student life that inspired people to think about the social problems we all face. Thank you to my fellow graduates who created art and poetry to convey the pain as well as the healing that goes along with true community building. Thank you to my fellow graduates who have never forgotten where they come from, who stay humble and open to hearing others' experiences as well. Thank you to my fellow graduates who shared their stories and experiences, even when they faced ridicule and critique. Thank you to Jamila Espinosa and Donald Abrams for helping your girl write this speech at 3 o'clock in the morning. And most importantly, thank you to my fellow graduates who were allies and upfront, even when no one was watching, when there was no chance of fame or recognition, when you were simply doing what should have been done. Genuine compassion is transformative. Before I mention the sense of not belonging here on campus, especially in part because of the place I come from and the experiences I have endured. Because of the radical collective love my classmates have imparted on me, I now understand that I no longer need this institution to invalidate me. Because I and my classmates have left endless marks on this community that will in the future lead to true radical change. I also mentioned before the importance of knowing one's past in order to carve a better future, which makes me think of my ancestors who made several sacrifices so that I could be standing on this stage today. Therefore, I know that me obtaining this degree today is not just about me. It's about my family, my community, and about using the knowledge I've gained from this place to fix the injustices I see in the world so that true revolutionary change can happen. Class of 2016, you are all already daring minds, compassionate souls, and incredibly talented people. I urge you to think about the words I've communicated to you today. Acknowledging privilege, community building, and radical community love does not cease after you leave the Claremont bubble. Displaying these traits is an ongoing process, one that can never really be mastered, and like a muscle, must always be exercised. If you have found yourself to be complacent this entire time, that probably means you need to exert these traits, and I challenge you to do so mindfully. I know that I am a part of a class that is special, and I cannot wait to see what impact you all will have on the world. Congratulations, class of 2016. Thank you. I leave you with this speech that I gave in 2016, but I also leave you with some hope that people will start to acknowledge their privilege, and people have already started to acknowledge their privilege, and it's really powerful, and people will actually fight for Black lives. That's all we want. Like, Black women have been at the forefront of so many movements, have helped so many people get the change they deserve. Just fight for us. Fight for us in our community. Fight for the Black trans people. Fight for, all Black lives, because literally we've always been there for y'all. I hope the words from my speech motivate you to continue this fight, because this is not the beginning. This has been an ongoing struggle for decades. What I will say is I have some great things coming up on the YouTube channel, so please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you to everyone who has been an ally, even when it's a closed door and it's not visible. We see you, we appreciate you. And make sure you're reaching out to the Black people in your life, making sure they're okay, making sure they're eating, making sure they have your full support, making sure they take time to rest and re-energize, because this work is exhausting. And I'm in a transitional space right now. I feel a bunch of different feelings and I'm not sure how to get them all out, but thank you all so much for the support. This YouTube channel has really been a labor of love. I love you all. Please be safe. Until next time, be bold, be beautiful, and be you. Love you.